Hi, it's Dwyer. GamblersAdvisory.com for premium picks. DwyerVIP.com on Roku. Dwyer Boxing News. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Let's step on the fault line of the earthquake because, let's face it, it's not fun unless there's risk involved, right? Let's be high risk here. You have two fights in the heavyweight division, both of which could be legacy-making fights. I mean monumental. The kind where 5 years down the road you look back and you say, I remember when. Right? The first fight is a fight I'll address in another video. It's the 2004 super heavyweight Olympic gold medalist taking on the 1996 super heavyweight Olympic gold medalist for the World Heavyweight Championship in 2013. Right? It's Alexander Povetkin against Vladimir Klitschko for the whole thing. And Povetkin, of course, is unbeaten. That fight is going to be a blockbuster. So too is this fight. With all due respect to David Price, this fight pits the UK's two best heavyweights. Unbeaten Tyson Fury in his moment of truth against the gatekeeper, the haymaker, David Haye. Stylistically, I don't think it gets better than this, right? Let's talk about it. In my opinion, styles make fights, right? But this fight is riveting because this fight is new school versus old school, right? Let's talk about the new school. I have to tell you, when I first saw the ambush style of fighting that seems to be the signature of many elite fighters today, my mouth was open. I didn't get it. I thought, this is boxing? You've got to be kidding me. Understand David Haye's fight style. He's the new school person here, right? The athletes today are simply better, especially at heavyweight, than they've ever been. If you go back, and I know I have some old timers who follow me who are saying, you've got to be kidding me. But if you go back, and if you look at films from the 1970s, look at Larry Holmes, look at Joe Frazier, look at several other heavyweights. In fact, look at the guys who we thought in the 70s were sculpted. Guys like Ken Norton. You're going to see that they have much more body fat than the guys today, right? The guys today just physically look in much better shape. You look at Vitaly Klitschko, it's hard to believe he's a heavyweight, apart from the height and the size, right? He has hardly any body fat on him. And his physique pales in comparison to Vladimir Klitschko's physique and David Haye's physique, right? When you're watching that first Ali Frazier fight, understand the size of the guys involved in the fight. Joe Frazier weighs less than 210 pounds, going into what might be the biggest heavyweight fight in history since the Jack Johnson Great White Hope fight, July 4th, 1910, right? Less than 210 pounds. Understand, Rocky Marciano, for most of his career, weighed less than 200 pounds. There was a time when Lennox Lewis was widely viewed as a giant, right? Physically, much bigger than the other heavyweights of his era. Today, guys like Vitaly Klitschko are taller than Lennox Lewis. You have several guys, 6'5", ruling the roost right now in the heavyweight division. The dynamics have changed so much that David Haye, who would have been bigger than Joe Frazier, Rocky Marciano, Ezzard Charles, a whole host of former champions, is today viewed as a smaller heavyweight, right? Well, that level of fitness has translated itself, in my opinion, into a new fight style, right? I call it ambush fighting. Joe Louis, back in the day, when the athletes couldn't move as well as they do today at heavyweight, famously said about Billy Conn, he can run, but he can't hide, right? Well, my point to you is guys can hide today, right? David Haye's fight style is to hide. He's outside, right? He's not engaging you. He's far away from you. Then, of course, when you're about to go to sleep, he comes in with power shots, not a jab, but with hard shots. He can throw a straight hand from halfway across the ring. He can come in with hooks. He feints. Forget the jab. He's feinting more of the time. And you've got to be careful on the feints, because David Haye has one punch knockout power in both hands, right? This is the opposite of Larry Holmes. I know Larry Holmes got up on his toes on occasion, right, and danced behind a jab. David Haye is not a dance behind a jab guy, right? Understand, ambush fighters are literally outside. They're not even engaging you, right? Yorkie Gamboa, another one, right? He's outside when he's not throwing hard punches. To pull off the high wire act that is ambush fighting, you have to have great foot speed. You have to have the foot speed to go hide, right? You have to have the foot speed to be far enough away from your opponent, right? That's the first thing you need. The next thing you need is one punch knockout power. The whole point of being an ambush fighter is to be outside and then be able to close the show when you come inside. There's also an implicit threat with an ambush fighter. David Haye's outside hanging around. I'm the opponent. I decide to go get him, right? The threat is, if I get too close, I could get knocked out, right? Because these ambush fighters, think Jean Pascal, they have hand speed, right? The point is not just power, it's hand speed. And even if I figured out the angles, I'm not sure which hand I'm going to get hit with. I can't look at David Haye's right hand, even though it's a great right hand, because there's a left hand that could also hurt me, right? And the power is mobile. Haye is not just a hooker. He throws devastating straight right hands. The reason why a straight right hand is more important than a hook is, quite frankly, it covers more ground and gets there faster, right? The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. A guy who can throw a concussive knockout, one punch, straight punch, and who also has the ability to throw devastating hooks is literally several times harder to defend against than a guy who I know is going to throw hooks, so I can just prepare myself to block outside shots. If he's also throwing straight punches, that's a problem, right? Let me also say too, there was a time when we looked at guys and thought, wow, he's fast. Wow, he has blinding speed, right? Ali, very fast heavyweight by any generation standards. But if you go back and if you look at a whole other group of heavyweights, right? Guys who ruled the roost back then. Ken Norton in the 70s. George Foreman. Sonny Liston. Right? These were elite heavyweights. You're going to see that they aren't as fast. Jerry Cooney. They're not as fast as a David Haye. Haye is fast by historical standards, right? I think today we don't realize that the athletes are bigger, stronger, and faster than they used to be, right? And so, as you're watching Haye be power shot heavy, as you're watching him outside move around the ring, and then leap in with sporadic attacks, as he did against Nikolai Valuev to take his title. Understand the speed is such that often their opponents look like Audley Harrison looked against David Haye, afraid to move because you're in there with really a panther. The guy leaps on you. By the time the dust settles, the guy is gone. Another ambush fighter, and he's interesting, is old Amir Khan. He's retooling his game now because of the shortcomings with the ambush style. Let's talk about those shortcomings. If you look at the CompuBox numbers for the Valuev Haye match, you're going to be stunned at Haye's low volume. In fact, throw that fight out. If you look at arguably Haye's biggest fight to date, his challenge of heavyweight champion Vladimir Klitschko, you're going to see very low volume because ambush fighters don't engage you long term. It's episodic. They're outside, they come in, empty the gun, then they're gone, right? It's not sustained. And so the low volume is a problem because sometimes when you're in against a higher volume guy, the judges are going to go on higher volume, right? You're going to lose on the scorecard. The other problem with ambush fighters, in fact, there are many, let's go down a list here, is that many of them are not good at fighting inside, right? The nature of an ambush is, I'm in the bushes. There you are. I jump out. Many of these guys are head hunters, right? David Haye is aiming to knock you out. His haymakers are up top. Being a great body puncher actually requires you to hang around the neighborhood, right? You're working over the guy raises his hands, then you start working over the guy's body, right? Understand, ambush fighters are visitors. They're not locals, right? They're long range. They're not mid-range or up close. So they don't really develop the skills that up close fighters do. So you look at an ambush fighter and he's not that good to the body, quite frankly, right? He's also not good at counter-punching up close, playing chess, so to speak, right? Because he's far back. He comes in, he has a prearranged combination. He's not reading and reacting. He's back here, he thinks, hey, look, let me just fake this punch and throw a right hand, right? That's what they do, then they get back out. Very different than the old school, right? Very different. Let me also point out, too, that it's tiring. If I'm an ambush fighter and I'm hiding in the bushes, and then I'm moving around from bush to bush, I'm up in the hills, figuratively speaking, in the ring, right? I'm moving a lot. Look how tired David Haye is at the end of the Chisora fight. I know many online are going to say he won that fight by knockout. Great. He was very tired, right? That's another problem with ambush fighters. They fade heavily in fights. Anyone remember Jean Pascal at the end of the Chad Dawson fight? The fight Pascal won. Anyone remember Jean Pascal fading late in both fights against Bernard Hopkins? Right? David Haye, very tired. Very tired. Against Valuev, what knockouts has Haye had, let's say, in the 10th, 11th, and 12th rounds? Let me hear from you. Now, Tyson Fury might be younger than David Haye, but he's old school, right? This is a different dynamic. This isn't, I'm going to ambush you. No, this is, I'm walking in your front door and I'm beating you up behind a jab, right? He's coming in, he throws jabs. He's your prototypical chess player. Adaptive, reactive. In other words, he's throwing a jab. Depending on how you react to what he's doing, he's throwing other punches. He's noticing how you move. He's noticing which hand's high, which hand's low. Right? This is the Larry Holmes, Riddick Bowe. In fact, of all the fighters I've seen, Tyson Fury reminds me the most of Riddick Bowe. Right? Guys with hand speed, tall men who can actually fight inside, right? As tall as Tyson Fury is, and he's very tall by historical standards. Look at him against much shorter Derek Chisora. When the two of them get close to each other, it's a mismatch. Let me say too, I was surprised by it. I looked at Tyson Fury and I thought Derek Chisora was going to chop this guy down. It was in that fight that you understood Chisora threw punches with a loop. And Tyson Fury, the tall man with more torso to protect, is actually the guy dictating inside, right? One of the benefits of old school is these are the guys who can walk you down, right? Ambush fighters, they're outside doing an ambush. It's too episodic for them to methodically break you down. Whereas the Tyson Fury old school style is that Joe Louis style, right? Pressure breaks pipes. The guy is always on you, right? If you can't respond, you're broken. The other thing too is the Tyson Fury style allows you to lean on opponents, right? Because you're local. You're in the neighborhood. You're in the guy's grill for the whole fight. So, of course, you can literally come and lean on a guy like Fury. Leaned on Steve Cunningham. Take a look at that fight. Ambush fighters, they want to surprise you. They don't want to lean on you, right? They don't want to actually box with you. Rather, they want to jump out the weeds and punch you and knock you out, right? So, let me also say too, the Tyson Fury type of fighter actually knows how to hit you to the body. Because again, he's up close throwing combinations. The jab is creating distance between you and him. But he's close enough to exploit the openings as he sees them. Ambush fighters tend to be too far away by design. They don't want to get hit. They don't want to smell your body odor. They don't want to be close enough to be grappling with you to land body shots. I like Tyson Fury in this fight. I think Tyson Fury has the foot speed to follow David Haye after the ambush. I think Tyson Fury, if he comes in, especially after learning a valuable lesson early in that Steve Cunningham fight where he hit the canvas, if he comes in aware of his defense, doesn't have his hands dangling around his waist, but actually has his hands up and is prepared to protect himself from David Haye's haymakers. And Haye's not in there to throw anything other than power shots. Right? If Tyson Fury is defensively aware and not in there trying to taunt David Haye, I think Tyson Fury has the defense to defuse David Haye I think Tyson Fury has the foot speed and balance to smother David Haye, get his back up against the ropes. How do you beat an ambush fighter? You follow him after the ambush. I think this fight is going to be a fight where Tyson Fury literally tracks down David Haye. Right now, assuming, and you need to confirm this, especially given the length of the Chisora fight. Assuming that this fight is 12 rounds, right? I'm expecting this fight to end by stoppage, right? Tyson Fury, quite frankly, moves better and throws his hands more than does Vladimir Klitschko, right? I expect this fight to be faster paced than that fight. Let's also get real. David Haye is older now than he was in that fight. He's been out of the ring for a while. Part of his absence was during a retirement, right? A lot of these fighters just mentally, once you check out of the library, right? It's just very hard to get back into that, I'm going to go back in there and study mode. Also, David Haye has suffered some injuries, right? His hand injury KO'd his fight against Manuel Charr. And so, my point to you is simply, given how tired David Haye was at the end of the Derek Chisora fight, the fight that did not go the distance, I'm expecting Tyson Fury to set a murderous pace where somebody gets stopped, right? If I had to pick one guy in this fight, it would be Tyson Fury, because Tyson Fury is going to be much more active than David Haye. I believe he's going to be much more judge-friendly. He throws much straighter punches than does Derek Chisora. He's much more clever than Derek Chisora. In other words, he's not going to always be on his front foot. There'll be moments where, as he comes in and he sees Haye bracing to, welcome him, he's going to stop coming forward and he's going to throw combinations, right? I'm expecting, though, ultimately, the bigger man to wear down the smaller man, right? I respect the new school quite a bit. I believe it's a new paradigm. I personally feel that David Haye-Vladimir Klitschko fight was much closer than most people do, right? But I will say that when a very skilled big man from the old school comes in with volume, with combinations, with the ability to fight inside, with the ability to hit to the body, with defense, right, with foot speed. When I see an old school guy who's prepared, I'm going to take him over a new school guy, even one with explosive punching power like David Haye. I like Tyson Fury in this fight, obviously with the haymaker, one of the hardest punchers in the sport. I would hedge the play with David Haye by knockout. I don't see David Haye winning a decision in this fight, nor do I see Haye ahead on the scorecards as he was when he fought Del Boy Derek Chisora. Let me hear from you. Leave your comments for me here online. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com. Let me also say, too, just in terms of the athletes getting better and getting bigger, right? Do yourself a favor. Go on boxrec.com. What's your thought right now on Sonny Liston? Was he a small heavyweight? Was he a big heavyweight? Compare and contrast Liston's body dimensions to David Haye's body dimensions, right? David Haye, you remember that video of him tracking down Vladimir Klitschko in a shopping mall and Vladimir Klitschko looking at him and questioning his size, right? David Haye for a while there was viewed as a cruiserweight, moonlighting as a heavyweight. But yet historically, David Haye compares favorably with Sonny Liston. Think about it. Anyway, let me hear from you. The data's on boxrec.com. On other sites, take a look at it. The world is changing. Because we have better athletes today, the styles are changing, right? Now we have reached a point where athletes don't even have to box you in a boxing match, where athletes don't have to jab, stick, and move Now they can just move and throw power punches. Thanks for watching.